Hello, hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do. So here on Let's Talk Ray Bradbury, I have been going through a collection called The Stories of Ray Bradbury, reading each story and giving a short review. We are up to story number 44 of 100 in the collection called The Emissary from 1947. This story features 10-year-old Martin, who is sick in bed. It is a long-term illness, not specified by Bradbury, but he never leaves his bed. And he has a dog, simply called Dog, at least to us, who is sort of his emissary. He goes out into the world. He has a collar that says, I'm Martin Smith, I'm 10 years old, I'm sick in bed, visitors welcome. But he brings back the smells of the world, so he can smell when fall has come, and you get this the unique aroma of the woods and the leaves and the decaying plants and the last crumbling yellow pollen of the ragweed. And so he's found a really beautiful way of connecting with the world despite being in his bed. So one of the visitors that his dog brings home is Mrs. Height, who is his teacher. They play board games together. She brings him library books and his lessons. And one day, she suddenly stops coming, and Martin's mother tells him that she was in a tragic automobile accident. She's dead. And Martin doesn't fully understand death. He asks his mother, what do bodies do in the ground? Do they just lay there all bored all the time, like me in my bed? I mean, he doesn't say those words, but that's definitely what Bradbury's getting at. And he says, why don't they get up and jump around once in a while and have some fun? It's a cruel trick that God played on them, and mother's basically, death's not supposed to be fun. It's the end. One day, Dog goes missing, and now, there's this feeling that he's cut off from the world. He has very little knowledge of what's going on as October gives way to November and Halloween passes. And he has some slight indications that kids were outside having fun, but he gets no part of this. But Dog's missing, and he very much misses him. One night, Martin's parents go out to a movie. He has a babysitter downstairs, and as he's laying there quietly in his bed, he hears a dog barking in the background, or in the long distance, and it gets closer and closer, and then finally, he hears somebody let the dog in downstairs. The dog runs up the stairs and jumps onto his bed, and the smell that Martin gets is one of decay and of the deep earth and the ground. And if you've ever dug in the ground, you know what that smell is. And I could smell it instantly when I was reading the story. And Martin says, or basically says, or thinks at the dog, he says, "You were just digging, right? Nothing weird here, just digging really, really deep." And that's when he hears footsteps on the stairs coming towards him. Deep, dark, thumping, stumbling footsteps. Possibly Mrs. Height returned, thanks to Dog. So, it's a ghost story in the end. But up until the point when you realize there's something supernatural going on, it's a beautifully written ghost story. It's not really, you wouldn't know it's a ghost story, but these descriptions that Bradbury gives of the smells of the seasons, and I'm not going to go into the text, but you definitely, these smells. Fresh cut grass in the summer, and the decaying leaves and sort of the aroma they give off, and the smell of dirt, and you also know that sort of smell and feeling of snow and cold. And it's funny that cold and snow seem to have an aroma, but Bradbury does a really good job of describing these. And this is how Martin sort of connects with the world despite being confined to his bed. It almost reminds me, in a way, of how if you're deprived of one sense, it's said that in some cases you can heighten your other senses. Blind people can get around using sound, and situations like that. But it's not quite that, but it's very similar. But I love the idea that Dog is his emissary that does all this for him, and then when he's deprived of Dog, it's like one of his senses was cut off. But really, this story is about a child learning about death. When Mrs. Height dies, Martin doesn't quite understand it, and so this is like seems to be his first experience with death, and he thinks of the body being confined to the ground, and as if the person is still there, sort of not really having much understanding of the soul and what's really happening. And I love the idea that this is something Bradbury does expertly all the time. I think a lot of people, sort of maybe critics and those types, would think it to be gimmicky. That basically there's this twist that in fact this is a ghost story. Mrs. Height is coming back to see him, but I think it's beautifully, and it's a very disarming way of exploring these sort of childhood issues in a way that is fun and is also insightful, and that's really what Bradbury does when he's at his best, I think. And I think this story is very much appropriate for all ages. I'm 40. I had my first experience with death decades ago, but I think a child could read this and have fun, but adult can still sort of feel that sense of nostalgia almost, and sort of be compelled to look back at their own life and those sort of things, which is what the best literature really does, isn't it? Is it makes you sort of see something in yourself. So, yeah, pretty neat little story. The Emissary, 1947. We'll be back in a couple of days with The Jar from 1944. That is story number 45 of 100 in the Stories of Ray Bradbury. So we're getting right down to the middle of the collection, and hopefully we can get this done sometime this year. So thank you for tuning in, and I guess until next time, keep it creepy.